problem for me is that he's taking all this gold, and he's taking all this farm after 15 minutes, but he's 17th in damage per minute, so he's just not performing, really.
But the problem is bigger, right, Monty? Because Kramer doesn't just take gold, he also takes resources, he takes team design. The comps are often built around the Kramer such that they were running Jinx in their last series, bringing back these really big hyper carries. It's not a meta that favors protecting for the hyper carry, and Kramer isn't finding results even with so many investments in him, both in terms of gold and comps. So, CJ, where's Ghost and where's a new strategy to find their way forward?
Well, it's going to be tough. And looking at the bans, Karma and Azir banned out first. No surprise with the Azir ban while Kuro is playing, but the Karma ban, ROX Tigers may not want to pick that one up as a possible first pick here.
So Karma's actually really risen up. If you look at the win rates in Champions, 67% win rate in the mid lane, 71% in the support role, and actually the highest win rate champion picked over 20 times in Champions this season. So Faker's shown the way on the mid lane Karma, and the support applying pressure as well.
Yeah, been absolutely huge for them. Trundle banned out here by CJ Entus. I don't really know if that's going to be the major threat because I guess they want to run a tank in the top lane. Tells you that they're not going to... I don't think Smed would really take that one given the current meta, but we'll have to see which way he is going to lean this evening. And let's see what CJ Entus agonizing over their last ban. It will be the Lucian. Taken away from Frey.
I mean, if you blink, this looks very much like a 6-10 ban list. 6-11 has come through. We expected a lot of change. We did see a series yesterday with no Triforce top lane picks, and now with Nidalee open, in fact, all junglers open, the Rek'Sai also open, Kindred is the first pick for ROX Tigers.
Now, the reason why they did this is Kindred has been one of the very few champions that CJ can win with. So this is as much a great pick for Peanut as it is a denial pick against CJ.
And CJ enters as an org because Bubbling actually found a lot of success, relatively speaking, on the Kindred last season as well. So plenty of power, so they're not going to rush to pick a jungle pick unless they want to start to deny information on the red side. So much available.
Well, I don't think you're going to really think about taking the Nidalee here unless you want a Braum to be taken against you very early, and Grill is certainly capable of playing that Braum. Let's see if Haru's actually going to lock in the Nidalee or not. And we could be looking at a Hecarim pick here. That would be our first one, and Jhin as well. So Hecarim, one of the champions that did get a boost from the Trinity Force buffs for sure.
And there was some
or
Hecarim
changes, I should say.
There was some Hecarim jungle coming out of, I believe it was LGD. I think Amy was playing. Of course, LGD on their first best of 3 of the season. Usually referring to LGD would actually be something that you should take a note from. Of course, the team has struggled extensively in 2016, but tank jungle Hecarim was the choice. That could still be a top lane Hecarim, but with the changes to Ghost being a very big indirect buff to Hecarim, there is certainly some possibilities for this champion. Can go full tank and be very disruptive in a team fight, as our overlays decide to be darkened.
I guess. So nothing is wrong in the game, however. So it looks like we will be locking in the Sivir and the Vladimir still being hovered right here for Kuro. Definitely priority pickup for them, and will be locking in the Vlad.
And I've got good news. Swain is still available for the ROX Tigers, Monte Cristo.
No.
Yes? Yes,
No.
it is. I'm not your dog. Can't tell me off like that.
I can tell the ROX Tigers, they're an animal, though.
That's true.
They call me the Tiger Tamer, Papa Smitty.
Do they actually?
That's right. Monty Tiger Tamer Cristo.
I thought that was SK Telecom.
Fair enough. Faker the Tiger Tamer. Well, BDD is going to actually take the Cassiopeia into the Vladimir here. It's been a champion that we really haven't seen since the Mage rework.
It is a champion that traditionally did well against Vladimir just because Vladimir can't out-sustain through the exchanges with Twin Fang. So irrespective of some of the tweaks towards the kit of Cassiopeia, we still expect that to be a pretty good laning matchup, but can be hard to team fight with Cassio, the short range.
Yeah, I think the Braum very likely against the Jhin. For the likes of the ROX Tigers, they could also just try and tie up the front line with the ultimate from Bard, but kiteability, you'd think Braum would be coming in at a premium, considering that Italy still might be a possible jungle pick here, and instead, we may be looking at a top lane Rumble.
Interesting. So we're seeing Rumble. I believe this is maybe the first pick. It might be the second of Rumble. I think it's the second pick we've seen of Rumble.
Smeb actually played it previously.
Post the changes. Smeb was always a really big Rumble player. He wasn't the Maokai type, he was definitely the Rumble type when we're talking about previous top lane metas, and it's one of those champions that with the ability now to flame spitter the minion waves can push so much more effectively, can jungle follow as well. So this has more options in laning phase than he used to, so it is a blind pick top lane though, because they're not sure about where the Hecarim is going. We have the extra information of the Ghost Summoner spell, so it's looking like Hecarim top.
Definitely looking like the most probable option. ROX Tigers will be very reliant on the Bard ultimate for engage here with follow-up from the On the Hunt from Sivir. Let's take a look. We may see a return to Shen. Untara did play the reworked Shen previously this season. He's one of the first players to actually bring that out here in Korea.
This is a risky matchup, because if you take Shen, probably going to be no kill pressure, can happily itemize into Spirit Visage, but you can't build the Sunfire to even hope to control the wave. And in the past, if you got a Sunfire, Rumble couldn't push that well with Q, you were pretty even. With the changes, and now there being no cap to minion damage on that flame spitter, I actually expect a pretty heavy pushing advantage for the Rumble.
Yeah. Also, some pretty nice dives possible with the combination between the Kindred and the Rumble. For those of you guys who missed the actual change to Rumble, what we're talking about is the minion damage went from 50% from his Flame Spitter, his Q, to 100% a couple of patches back. So it's a little bit surprising that we're seeing Rumble now, because he was theoretically viable previously. But Smeb is going to be returning to his old pick, and we'll see how he does on this one. CJ, not a lot of appeal for this Jhin, considering that Hecarim and Cassiopeia are going to be going deep into the enemy team composition, so Madlife have to be precise with those tidal waves and those bubbles to make sure that Kramer can handle it in the back line.
By far the most played champion in Smeb's career is the Rumble. 11 more picks, 32 overall than the Maokai, which interestingly is the second biggest pick for Smeb. So not a lot of hard CC though to grasp, and the turret dives may be affected by the reduced slow coming through for the Kindred. So Kindred's lost a bit of early damage. Have to be very precise to get all that damage down onto the Shen, who is of course quite slippery in his own right.
Now, I really like the fact that they're playing the Rumble here, but we're going to get into game one, guys, right now. Oh boy, it's a Cloud Drake. The power of the wind will be with whomever takes the dragon first. And it will be game one here between the ROX Tigers and CJ Entus to kick things off.
So the Cloud Drake does have one interesting synergy with the good old clippity-cop Hecarim in the jungle. So the extra movement speed is translated to damage, probably just on the devastating charge, because after that you're in combat.
I admire your optimism, Papa Smith.
You know, you have to try really hard to be glass half full with the Clown Drake.
You really do. You really, really do.
But again, so we did see in the LPL this Hecarim jungle. It's a surprising pick to see, because nothing's really changed about Hecarim directly, and if you think about it, in general, tank itemization has been directly nerfed, but the one thing you can say about the Hecarim is the Ghost. Once again, Ghost is stronger at every stage of the game than it was previously, so at least he's got Ghost going for him, Haru.
That girl sign said, praise girlfriend.
Not sure if that was optimism or the truth.
I think it was optimism, Papa Smithy. I think it was optimism. Well, we are going to see both lanes in your favorite Australian meta.
Oh, yeah.
Heading to the north side of the map, and Kuro and BDD already going at it in the mid lane. So I have to keep track of this Hecarim. I've never seen that skin before, but we haven't seen Hecarim.
Elderwood Hecarim.
Is that what it's called?
Yes. I don't know why I know that. I just do.
Stop knowing skin names.
I don't know anything about lore, so I've got that going for me.
Great. I know nothing about either. So, coming in, I'm very curious about how Haru's going to do against this Kindred. Smeb, though, I like the Rumble pick here simply because the Equalizer has always been good against low mobility AD carries where you can easily shoot it in the back line. Also very useful for kiting against these champions don't have a lot of dash abilities, such as Cassiopeia. So they have a really excellent kiting composition, the ROX Tigers. If they can get the priority in the river and start to kite out, they should be in very, very good position to take some of these team fights.
Now, I know it's about skins again, but it is Super Galaxy Kindred and Super Galaxy Rumble on the Rift. So that's some fun topside synergy.
I hate Super Galaxy Rumble.
He really is very loud.
He's so annoying.
You know what the upside is? If you minimize the game but still have game sounds, you will never miss the start of the game because he starts shouting indiscriminately in the Rift the moment you spawn.
All right, Peanut kind of come in for
Battle
some early
Ward.
damage. Battle Ward indeed. Red buff going to tag Haru right there. So Peanut going his, it's like Krugs to red to blue there, and then following up after a full clear by Haru. So he will be losing out on his red buff. Pretty greedy jungle clear here by Haru.
This is the sort of gank path that, again, the Battle Ward Peanut was known for when it was in full flight during the regular season.
Is that what Wards do? They fly?
They do. They fly so high.
Blue Wards fly. I'll give you that one. That's true. Peanut here. Pop over the wall. And not going to get rooted out there by the Jhin, sidestepping that. So they do at least prevent a little bit of that counter jungling. You know, one of the big differences between Peanut this season and Peanut last season is that he led all junglers, and in fact all players, last season in terms of his first blood participation rate. And this season he is the lowest of all starting junglers with only 17%. So that's a bit of a disturbing trend for Peanut, and he's struggled to really get on his feet and play that aggressive style we know him for in the summer.
I mean, the ROX are #1 in the league for wards per minute. Hasn't done them very good in terms of game wins, but they're warding a lot.
It's just really weird to see them go from last place in wards per minute to first place in Peanut.
Is it that weird? Because this is the same team with the guy that went from being a pumpkin to being the man we now know as the top lane carry in Smeb. So this team is known for pretty drastic transformations.
That's true, but as an entire unit, you would not expect that. You
Good synergy, team synergy.
Definitely not expect that.
So I actually really liked the last pick Jhin that we saw from CJ Entus. I feel like Jin's power is pretty much proportional to how strong the enemy frontline is. So whether that's the amount of tanks or just how ahead or behind those tanks are. You look at the ROX Tigers, it's very much a carry top in the Rumble. The front line is really only Kuro on the Vladimir, who doesn't want to itemize a lot of armor. If Kramer gets ahead or in any way CJ do well, you could definitely see the Jhin doing pretty massive damage because there's a lot of people to shred. The fat amounts of AD he's going to be able to stack up.
I just don't think he's going to be able to actually get any attacks off, because if he enters his ultimate, that Rumble's just going to fire the equalizer on top of him. So I think Smeb will be in a very good position to do that, and they did pick Rumble intentionally into the Jhin. So they knew that that was going to be an option here. We don't see the Jhin really doing much lane bullying this time around. Helpful to have that Bard there with the Thunderlords to provide some early damage and discourage what can be very lane dominant performance from Jhin.
Speaking of lane bullying, we're just seeing the Cassiopeia lane matchup right now. I'm actually going to track the skill order, because when the champion was just reworked, it felt like there was almost all the power of the kit was in the queue.
Yep.
But last time I watched Cassiopeia, I think it was Faker playing it on stream, he was maxing E, so...
Interesting.
There was a big change, though, with how cooldown was calculated. It's a flat 0.75 second cooldown, regardless of the target is poisoned. So you do Twin Fang a lot more than you did just after the rework. So there might be that different priority in that ability now. Need more information, so I will track that when we move over to Cassiopeia.
Well, Chilling Smite here for Haru, adding at least some CC to the Hecarim kit, but he hasn't really found very many viable targets. Still doing a pretty good job of farming, despite the invades here from the Kindred.
I feel like ROX have drafted around the Hecarim pick really well. If you try to draft Ashe into Hecarim, you have a bad time. He just gallops at you and there's nothing you can do. But Sivir fights with her tanks and with her damage dealers in the middle of a fight, so should be able to position very aggressively. No one really on the ROX Tigers is going to be that susceptible, you'd have to say, to the Hecarim ult. But Hecarim is the master of disruption. So again, if it gets tanky enough, if the game goes long enough, should definitely be very relevant in fights. But CJ have drafted almost exclusively about games going long, but kind of given it away in the early game, whether it's in Dragon Control or just, you know, losing out to superior opponents. So let's track to see if they can stay even as this game goes on.
It's also just been about their team fighting, which was so excellent
Exactly.
last season, but it's really been falling flat on its face. They, I really actually, we didn't talk about this, but it's like we will see the smite steal there from Haru. I like the fact that ROX prioritized the Vladimir here, because CJ has had an extraordinarily hard time kiting Vladimirs. They're really, really bad at kiting Vlads, and we've seen just a ridiculous amount of success. We saw Jin Air absolutely wreck them with the Vladimir because they refuse to get out of range of the big tides of blood right in the middle of 4 or 5 members of their team.
And are you excited about Sivir popping the ult, a Bard ultimate coming down, and then Hemo played into Equalizer? Oh, baby.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one for sure.
And it's going to be first item, going to be the Proto Belt for Smeb. It looks like he started with a Ruby Crystal, so of course, if you're a Legacy Rumble player, heavily expecting Haunting Guys, and it still might be the Haunting Guys, but this build does go into Proto Belt, which is Kindle Gem and the Revolver, so probably going to be Proto Belt, which is a bit of extra burst, but you don't really think of Rumble as a sort of champion that profits from it, but it could definitely be relevant to getting into melee range for that Flame Spitter.
Yeah. And looks like Kuro will be probably going for Spirit Visage first. But my hope here, Papa Smithy, is double Proto Belt Sivir ult, where we just see Kuro and Smeb rocket launch themselves into the middle of the enemy team. That would be quite hilarious to watch, and something that I've never seen before.
So when ROX were in their full flight last season, it was a lot of everyone is an initiator. Now it's just everyone has a million gap closes and gets in there aggressively anyway. They don't have the Ash for initiate, but could certainly have a lot of teamfight damage. It's going to be a big gank.
Yeah, will be, that's for sure. There's a magical journey. Looks like somebody's going to get out right there. Gorilla is just going to get charged down and die. Popped the journey, but then walked right away from it. Prey manages to survive off of the split, but they do have to sacrifice as Haru gets in from behind.
BDD, just to confirm, is maxing the Twin Fang first, so that seems to be the new max after the cooldown tweaks.
Yeah, Untara, though, did use a Stand United to get to that top lane. Proxy farming now on the bottom side from Smeb. So he at least will punish this. He had already, as you were noting, gotten that turret down very low. Merc Tread, Spirit Visage, not the best early game build here to push that wave. Now, any sign of the Cinder or the Sunfire cape. So Untara has been struggling, but at least they turn it back with a kill.
I feel like if you just think about this matchup, Shen is definitely going to have better trades than he used to with the ability to just max Q and actually do relevant damage, but just because he's not going to be able to itemize into that Barmy Cinder early, inevitably with the extra wave pushing available to the Rumble, it's always going to be a lane that's going to be heavily pushed in from Shen's side, so the matchup definitely going to plan. And one thing I want to mention is that Gorilla, this guy was, put as one of the best players in the world last year. Certainly had an excellent spring season, almost exclusively playing that Alistar, but certainly been dying a lot. Well, the Bard has certainly been one of the champions he's been most guilty on, but he's actually #2 in the league behind only Hachani for most deaths this season.
I love the fact that Hachani
I know, it's so great! But if you think about it, he hasn't had Hachani moments, he just dies a lot.
Yeah. He
plays a lot of melee supports like Taric that really end up dying, so I guess it makes sense to some degree.
His Taric games were pretty abysmal. He really didn't seem like he knew exactly how tanky that champion was. And really struggled with that. Well, at least we can say at least the dodge field will prevent the overheated Rumble auto attacks, but that's about all it's going to be good for in this particular matchup.
We didn't actually track the interaction between Ricochet and the dodge field yesterday. I would assume that if the first target is in the dodge field, then the auto attack won't apply, so Ricochet won't apply. But again, it's only it's only theoretical. In my solo queue games and in competitive, we've only just now been seeing a little bit of Shen.
That is going to hop over the back of this wall and try and solo this first Cloud Drake. Try and reset it, get something perhaps a bit more useful to them.
A second Cloud Drake?
Probably, knowing our luck, Papa Smithy.
We saw some Infernals and Mountains yesterday. Look, here's an Infernal. Oh.
Damn it, Papa Smithy. Damn it.
I was really actually hoping for the sake of the joke that it was going to be another Cloud. Never let us down, Riot Games. Proto Belt completed for Rumble, so confirmed there. Man, these team fights could be pretty explosive, and I guess that's the thing, is so you think about champions that build Proto Belt, you think of Ahri and Annie, and champions that really have one burst rotation. Rumble does have that to some degree, but again, getting in melee range is relevant to getting the most out of Flame Spitter and those empowered auto attacks.
All right, interesting. ROX actually has been setting up a 5-man here on the spawn of the blue buff, and Peanut, I don't know why he flashed there. Interesting choice, but they are still going to go after this blue buff, and they already swapped down to the bottom side, so they can simultaneously attempt to kill this turret. Smeb may have to TP into the top lane in order to save his, and pop his equalizer if they actually want to trade one turret for 0. But they do take something for it. Haru makes a transition over to the other side of the map. It looks like they're just going to base race actually here for turret number 2 with the help of Peanut.
It's not going to be a race. Remember, Rumble can clear so safely with Equalizer. Shen hasn't even got a Balmy Cinder, let alone a Sunfire Cage. So this is actually really smart. Triple range champions pushing for the ROX Tigers. And look at CJ. They're struggling to get the outer turret.
Yeah, Mad Life actually has to take... Oh! Wow. Looks like he nearly was able to nearly died right there, but the last turret shot didn't actually connect, so... Let's take a look at what's happening in the mid lane. Not a whole lot so far.
But that decision is the most ROX Tigers-esque play we've seen in, what, 12, 13 games from them this season? They certainly looked like they were still on vacation for at least the first few games, but waking up slowly, and a sleeping giant for sure, the ROX Tigers.
Yeah, they chipped down that bottom turret with Smeb's pressure, and like you said, Untarid itemized purely for magic resistance at that point, so when they swap Prey back down there with the BF sword...
Shut up.
That's right. With the BF sword, they were able just to clear out that tower. They had the better wave clear. They had the advantage with the ranged jungler. So trading 2 for 1 in terms of those turrets. They also managed to deny the blue buff from going over to Cassiopeia. Of course, needs it far more than Vladimir does.
But think of the only team that's made moves like that this season. The only team that's certainly on a different level. That's the sort of move that SKT has been so smart about doing. They look when a person is itemizing purely for one statistic, rotate their AD carry because it's usually magic resist against the likes of Elise, Maokai, Echo, etc. in the previous meta, and take advantage, but they also bring the jungler to open up the option for a turret dive, and because ROX did all those things, they got the inner turret as well, so it's got so many bonus objectives. On first glance, you're like, why are they swapping now? Dragon's down. But it was the bonus objectives they got in the lane and in the jungle that really made it a masterstroke from ROX.
Very nicely done. Not going to be too much reflected in the gold lead right here, that extra turret. We do see, actually, Kuro switch away into the Proto Belt first, so we have double Proto Belt already. Now, the sad thing about this is this composition and this itemization would be amazing if these Drakes were actually worth anything in this game early.
Some Infernals.
But with double Cloud Drakes, like, this build's power spike is kind of going to be wasted unless they find a different way to use it.
I don't agree, Monty. Don't agree, Gorilla. Oh, it's gonna be a fight.
That looks like Gorilla actually just gonna get tagged out right there. Flashes still dies anyway. Haru still getting the AoE down, but the Lazarus Bite has been popped. Haru, the next target to focus. Double kill though for
really
Haru.
Nice equalizer.
Yeah, equalizer does come in, picks up 1 in return for the ROX Tigers. Kuro on the run. They're trying to kite this one back out. Looks like CJ not going to commit over the turret. Takes a couple harpoons and a Q from Vladimir as a bit of punishment, but 3 for 1 in favor of CJ.
ROX makes these plays a lot. Those sort of plays would have worked in previous metas, but without the Alistar with the Bard, unfortunately Gorilla consistently overestimates his tankiness, dies first with ultimate available, with Ignite available, and ends up being a 3-for-1 trade, and now potentially a chipped out mid turret for CJ Entus. You know, we're going to see the replay. Again, it's Gorilla getting too cute. If that's Alistar or Braum, you can understand it, but dies instantly before anything can happen.
Credit to Kramer, though. He did actually land the root in the middle of the magical journey, it looked like. And so they were able just to catch him, or right on the other side, and burst him down.
Equalizer from Smeb was exactly where it needed to be. It's just 2 had already fallen before that could happen. So split the team, did a lot of AoE damage, but 2 being dead already meant that there wasn't any more to get from it. So ROX have made the smart map movements up until then, but suddenly CJ, they're in a good spot, and they haven't been in touching distance in a lot of their games. So especially as we mentioned, with Jin being able to carve out the squishy lineup from ROX Tigers, all hope not lost yet for CJ.
Definitely not. ROX will be making a play onto the top side tier 1. Peanut already there. They set up a lot of pink wards, discourage any kind of defense. And Kuro, Peanut, and Smeb all just using the auto attacks. Try and burn it down, and that taunt not going to land. Root will coming in from Jin. Not enough for any kind of engage. ROX in a 5-man here. They're splitting with Cassiopeia on the bottom side.
Which doesn't have teleport, so with a 5-man investment, there's the ultimate.
Misses the binding though. Gorilla, not with the best mechanics there. Didn't actually time out his ultimate. At least they still get the turret, but they don't have any kind of TP to actually respond. On the bottom side of the map, they're going to try and take an extra objective in the Rift Herald, and BDD just very slowly working through that tier 1.
So probably see the Rift Herald go to Smeb. He is a melee champion, so the overheat auto attack plus the Flamesplit is going to be doing this crazy trade damage. I noticed a Sheen in the inventory of Haru and now a Ruby Crystal. Trinity Force from the jungle after a Cinderhulk. They're going to be very, very squishy, but Trinity Force for a Hecarim was probably buffed. You don't have the movement speed anymore, so it's a slight nerf there, but 20% cooldown reduction opens up options. And Iceborne Gauntlet's been nerfed, so I'm thinking it might actually be the Trinity Force Hecarim.
Yeah, and getting those extra Sheen procs on the Rampage too with the CDR, quite nice. ROX still working on these outer turrets. They are going to have to back out right now. Protobelt use Haru in from the side, though. He's going to get that ultimate off of Fear Peanut. No one actually getting a kill. Untara still going in. Peanut going to live with the Lamb's Respite. Tidal Wave rolls through. Not going to hit anybody. Gorilla on the run. Will be chopped down there by the likes of BDD, hitting with that Twin Fangs. And there's 3 kills already in favor of CJ Entus, and they're going to get the mid-turret. Big overextension from the ROX Tigers.
It was really nice to see CJ coming in from multiple corners. This is one of the original teams that pulled off the flank maneuver back in the Blaze days. And now even with the new lineup, smarts coming from both sides. So much flexibility because the Hecarim is a one-man initiation train. They will take this inner turret as well, and CJ Entus opening up this game.
Yeah, doing a good job here playing that defense, and Haru really pulling off this Hecarim well.
See, Haru alone is forcing the ROX Tigers to go in every direction, so Kramer actually is under no threat. He takes some equalizer damage, has to walk off it, but again, he snipes out Peanut. There's actually really nice snipe there, and probably poor positioning from some other members. Some people just die to the AoE damage and the Ignite. And ROX kind of all at sea in these engagements.
Just great engages. The synergy between Untara and Haru on point. The Stand United coming in with that Hecarim did a lot of work right there, and now ROX Tigers find themselves down 1 kill to 7 and nearly 3,000 gold in the hole. Peanut will be snagging this blue buff for himself, but this is a real struggle now for ROX. They needed to be able to kite this out, and they haven't really gotten much of anything. Cloud Drake is up now.
Now you can see that from the items, these fights are going to be played in phases from CJ Entus. Basically, Untara and Haru are going for selfish magic resist. You could understand Locket for the Hecarim, but they're going to go for double Spirit Visage. Dive, try to occupy 3 people's time, and then Kramer will be free to fight in the backline because BDD can fight next to him and basically dissuade with ultimate or damage anyone trying to dive onto that Jhin. And so tanky are Hecarim and Shen piggybacking in the front line. They could actually be able to get free auto specifically onto Kramer because no one will actually be able to walk past Hecarim, Shen, and navigate Cassiopeia to get specifically to that Jhin. And if they do, Nami's there as well.
Yeah, quite problematic. Also, Smeb here going for it pretty quickly. Andrea's Torment. He is not going to be a very tanky rumble in that front line with this itemization.
From what I understand, the Protobelt is naturally countered by the Miasma from Cassiopeia, which doesn't let you use gap closers.
Oh, Peanut caught out already, and he's just going to go down. And actually, Haru comes in and takes the Drake.
Oh.
Kuro with a couple curtain call shots on the backside of the pit, but that is a very free kill and a very free Cloud Drake for the likes of CJ Entus. Bray has to pop the On the Hunt to sprint through his own jungle. Haru on an absolute rampage this game.
Topical, that's the name of his Q as well.
I know.
That's like when I cast Jarvan, I'm like, cataclysmic. Oh.
All right, Haru's going to get stunned up here by the Cosmic Binding. Takes about 50% of his HP. Now going to get caught out, but the Equalizer sort of wasted. Still going to use the Stand United on him. See if they can actually save their pony in the jungle. Looks like the answer is going to be no, as Kuro sprints in from the side using that Ghost to try and get some kills. Flash forward. There's the pool to slow them down. Mad Life taking a lot of damage here. And Gorilla with another flash finally lands that Cosmic Binding. Untara getting low. Mad Life also burning to death on the side. And it will be 3 kills and a possible Baron attempt here from the ROX Tigers.
Once again, BDD's on the bot side of the map, split pushing without teleport, so CJ could not afford to be that far overextended. Once Haru had used his ultimate, there was no way for him to escape. They're going to have to trade tank pretty well because they have no tanks on their lineup, but this should be Baron unless BDD has an answer.
Gonna try the curtain call. There's one, there's two. Not gonna be enough. Sivir picks up the Baron, but they're getting picks on the other side. Kuro low, Smeb trying to get out. There's the E coming in from the Jhin, but he's not actually going to land the root. Nobody was actually caught out there, so.
It's an exciting meta when no one's a tank on the side of ROX Tigers, because the moment they're caught, they die. But this is why all of this started. Haru got very cute trying to initiate onto Prey. Didn't respect how many people were around, so gives up his whole life. They have to use so many tools to try to keep him alive. He doesn't, but all the while the minimap tells the story. BDD was not on the same wavelength. They were clearly happy with him split pushing once again, but then they can't afford to be just so disrespectful of the ROX Tigers. They have the equalizer, they have all their flashes available. Bard and Sivir can do their bit as well. So the punishment is a Baron, but a lot of the Barons cleared out by some kills on the backside by BDD.
We'll see if the ROX Tigers can actually convert this into any kind of turret lead or any objective advantage at all. But yeah, you have to at least respect the Tigers' damage in this game, if nothing else. If you get caught out like that and they can isolate a target, they will burn them down extremely quickly. So I'm going for a Void Staff now, so it looks like ROX have pretty much committed themselves to making picks in this game.
They also, again, need to kill the Hecarim Shen in the front line to get anywhere near the carries, and the carries are the ones who've really profited. 8 kills and no deaths between BDD and Kramer. So the phases so far, if the tankiness holds true, is Prey.
Curtain call, there's the slow, forces the flash, fourth shot. Swings wide. Shen still here. Looks like he is going to recall, perhaps setting up for a TP or a Stand United play if ROX were to continue their aggression, but nice shooting from Kramer means that it's only going to be one turret on this Baron power play. But the ROX Tigers have very nearly gotten themselves back into this game when it comes to a gold total. Still going to be tough for them to finish this one out.
Someone needs to kill Haru. That's the thing I think they might struggle to do. He's actually going to reinitiate.
That's right. Prey in the front line. No flash this time for him, and he should fall very soon. As soon as the lands where Spike goes down, are going to hit the Bard ultimate, but to no effect whatsoever. Still lose 3 members in their own jungle as CJ comes in for the red invade. There's just nothing for CJ to take, though, in response.
The pocket picks from the jungle have been so big in Champions. Beyond showed the Amumu early in the season, bought by the Gragas, did great things. And now importing the Hecarim pick from the LPL. I mean, they just have no answer to Haru, and it's a strange world where consistently this season we've seen risky jungle picks. Remember, the Amumu game was against ROX Tigers. And now the Hecarim against ROX Tigers. You've got Kindred, one of the strongest dueling junglers, but consistently enemy junglers are getting away with these edge meta picks against the most aggressive counter jungler of them all, Peanut.
Yeah, and he's really struggling at 1 and 5 here. We also saw ROX. It seems like Peanut sometimes doesn't know the proper pathing or how to handle some of these junglers. Remember, they did lose to the Amumu pick because he wasn't playing aggressive in the enemy jungle
But
early.
he was aggressive this game. That's the surprise, is that now he's just so far behind in items, has a bit of everything with the Zeal, and the Execution is calling to go with the Blood Razor, and I believe the Maw of Malmortius.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory on that one.
It's hard to see right now.
But it's just a bit of panic stations. Because again, I don't think anyone can cut down this Hecarim, who continues to farm, going to pick up the Gromp, has gone almost full tank, but after Spirit Visage feels like he's strong enough to start itemizing that Trinity Force, and then Prey. The damage is something you need to respect from this Hecarim.
Yeah, I thought he might change his mind here after getting the Spirit Visage and actually just go Iceborne Gauntlet and try and get some slows, but he's just going for even more damage. So Gorilla going to sidestep that one, and BDD wants to get a kill right here. He will be caught on the Equalizer. Sped so low, and that's it. Untara comes in with a Stand United. There's the finisher. Kuro desperately trying to do something with his Hemo Plague. He will pop BDD. No, he won't. BDD just barely living. Thanks to Mad Life coming in with the ebb and flow. Prey now caught out on the side, and he will just be cut down in his own jungle. That was a huge commitment for BDD, but Untara has been on point with the Stand United.
And finally, CJ has seemed to have homebrewed a comp that works for them. The frontline duo and then the backline carries of the Cassiopeia and Jhin. The phases they're fighting in, feels like ROX Tigers doesn't have an answer, and this is one of the downsides of Kindred. If there's a lot of action in one area and then a lot of action on the other side of the screen, Kindred finds it very hard to get good use out of the ultimate and ends up getting picked, trying to transition between fighting with the carries and fighting with the tank line.
Yeah, this has been an impressive game from CJ. They played with each other, team fought well, and shown a measure of aggression in the early game. You can fall back for this Ocean Drake at the moment. Baron going to spawn in 2 minutes' time. They have an opportunity here to take another dragon. Let's take a look at this one again.
I mean, BDD is just so aggressive. He's been one of the impressive performers this season despite his team struggling. Puts out a lot of damage to start, remember, has good sustain and also the shield, but it's amazing that Mad Life's heal is enough. He's at 210 health, doesn't die to the Vladimir because he has, I believe, an Abyssal Scepter for magic resist, but on your screen we also see that the Cloud Drake comes through for CJ, and I believe that's another Cloud Drake spawning, so interesting.
It was an Ocean Drake.
Ocean Drake, my apologies.
Yeah.
Cloud next, though. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, ROX Tigers is getting their aggression turned against them through CJ's rather rapid collapses this game, and we have not really seen the Cassiopeia this successful since the rework, actually, but as you're saying, the miasma dealing with the Proto Belt is actually a huge problem for the ROX Tigers if they want to actually engage these fights.
They knowingly opted into the Proto Belt, specifically on the Rumble. Of course, it's very expected on the Vladimir, but on the Rumble side, it's a little bit questionable, I guess, we watch. Now, it's not the biggest thing. In a lot of cases, the Proto Belt is used before a fight or just to finish off a kill rather than necessarily being required to win a fight, but so far it's been CJ initiating the fights from downtown with things like the Jhin ultimate or just Haru running in, and no one can deal with this Hecarim. Expect, if CJ win, a Hecarim ban in Game 2.
Yeah, I think you got to take it out. We did see the curtain call. It's going to start right here. They are just going to use the Simmer ultimate pretty early. A little bit afraid of a dive. Actually, the curtain call not doing that much damage over to Gorilla. And they are just going to clear out that minion wave with the help of the ricochets. CJ can be patient right now. They can just go for the Baron right at spawn here, 3 seconds. And they are going to turn onto it immediately. One ward from the ROX Tigers in the pit. That will be removed instantaneously by Haru and Mad Life.
Cassio doesn't have blue, but always famously was a great champion taking Baron. Azir and Cassio from the mid lane were always the gold standard for mid lane Baron taking champions. So there has to be a great degree of respect. We do see people standing in wards, though, from CJ.
Gonna try and do it again. Haru coming in with a Stand Unite already on him. He's trying to get on Bray. Bray has to flash over the wall, but there's the onslaught of shadows on the follow. Peanut and Kuro splitting up. Magical Journey gets a few members of the ROX Tigers out, and there's the main engage actually gone from the likes of CJ Entus. So can they actually do this Baron? No Hecarim ult. No Stand United. Gorilla gonna check this, gets stunned immediately. It tries to get through the Magical Journey, doesn't do it. Haru and Untara follow it through and around to the blue buff. Gorilla, another death in this game. Face checking that Baron. Of course, there's not really any good person on his team besides him to do it, unfortunately, without a tank.
Doesn't seem like he knows the limits of this bar just from weight of play we've seen. Playmaking is good from the ultimate, nothing else is. With the minions taking down a Nexus turret, no way to contest this Baron. So another advantage to layer on to a 7,000 gold lead for CJ Entus. 18-4 is such an insane kill score because, you know, you would have expected 18-4, but it's flipped around. CJ Entus just found something finally that works for them. I love the fact that this homebrew comp, it makes sense. The itemization, going for selfish itemization on Shen and Hecarim, realizing they're never going to be in aura range of their carries because they're fighting and tussling up with multiple members in the backside. It's been good to see, and it's nice to see CJ finally take that next step when we're already double digits games into Champions Summit.
Well, we did see one of their nice games where they played quite aggressive Lucian and Varus when they went up against Longzhu, but ever since then, against Jhin Air, they folded pretty quickly. Now they come out swinging in this one, and even though they made that mistake and gave up the first Baron of the game, they quickly course-corrected, stuffed the Baron power play of the ROX Tigers, and have been punishing them ever since.
Trinity Force Hecarim from the jungle. This is fun. Of course, this build would not be able to be put together if the Hecarim was behind. If CJ was losing, this would definitely be a hole they probably couldn't creep out of. But when you're ahead, being able to itemize Trinity Force from the jungle is just so much power. And just with a Spirit Visage, they haven't had to worry about the AD damage. It's been killing people. It's maybe going to be a turret dive.
Curtain Call misses the first shot, and there's the Bard ultimate just to stop the Curtain Call from poking them out so they can at least defend these turrets. And that's going to be a Tempered Fate, not useful for actually defending the inhibitor itself.
Ranged auto attackers getting zoned away. It's only really Kramer that can do anything safely, and for now, hasn't been able to get too many shots in.
Now they are taking away bit by bit this inhibitor's HP, but they have to be very careful just because Cassiopeia and the Jhin can get caught out quite easily, but that's going to be it. Haru comes in with one swipe of the axe. Will kill the inhibitor. They're going to re-kill number 2. Haru actually caught out, does have to Onslaught of Shadows out of the fight. Bit sloppy on the siege there, getting ahead of his team by a significant degree, and now Kuro has the ghost up. Nope, that's the actually Crimson Rush, I believe. Yeah, with the ghost. And it's like the Jhin not going to find a route onto the Vladimir, so they can't punch through. And they are going to just recall right now. 2 inhibitors will be enough to sate them for the time being. I'm a bit surprised, though, when Haru had to use his ultimate out that we didn't see ROX just try and take a desperation team fight, because that was a good opportunity.
I mean, Haru's itemization seemed to bait himself there because he had the Trinity Force completed. He's like, I need to walk up and get Trinity Force procs. I need to get the most use out of this item, but in reality, he doesn't have the tanky stats to be able to vindicate. That's only tanky in the middle of the enemy team when he's able to access his Spirit of Dread, his W, to get that extra AoE spell vamp. So for now they back away. There's been no shopping trips. They're still 5-man and they're looking for this 3rd inhibitor turret.
Playing it by the book right now. Baron buff still up. They've got some time to work with. There's a little bit left. And they are going to fall back away from this turret. Frey not actually going to block the Jhin route with the spell shield.
3rd Cloud Drake of the game has spawned. It will be the last Drake before the Infernal, but for now CJ do not want to end their pressure onto this outer turret.
Baron buff has fallen away, and here comes the curtain call again, looking for that poke. Prey has to use his ultimate, trying to get out of this one. Locket also popped as he walks forward. See if he can get a ricochet off, doesn't find it. Will have to recall back to base or walk into the fountain just to regen his HP.
Such a really good trade for CJ, a non-committal Jhin ultimate for the massive Bard disengage ultimate is a really good trade. They can still have basically full power in these fights, so they're going to try and use that window about 2 waves before Gorilla's ult's back up.
Miasma down. So I'm trying to get that placement over the wall. Untara inside the base. Does take a bit of a beating.
Is still Shen, though.
Is still Shen, though. Is still very tanky. And ROX need to fall back to their last remaining Nexus tower to clear super minions.
So CJ will go in on the turret this wave. This is the last wave before Bard's ultimate will be available. So if they're going to stick around this long, this is their wave to take this inhibitor turret, or they will back away.
I mean, they're also just waiting. I mean, Untara's here on the inhibitor, that Nexus turret itself. So Kuro uses that Tides of Blood, tries to get in there, but the super minion may just have this one. No, Frey falls back, but CJ plays an even game, and they don't have to dive. Instead, they get nearly the last Nexus turret. It's about 100 HP left, and then the top inhibitor turret as well. CJ has a lot of money at this point, though. They're not going to spend. Sivir is going to use the ultimate right there. Equalizer goes down. Kuro proto-belts into the back line, gets a 2-man Hemoplague, but it's not probably going to be enough right here. Haru falling low, but the kills are coming in. Kuro kited out and eliminated. Smeb, the next focus target, has to flash back, desperately trying to get back to his fountain, but this looks like it's just going to be the end of the game here as the final inhibitor falls, and there is no HP left on that Nexus turret. It's a desperate defense for the ROX Tigers. Peanut has to flash out of that one, and we are trying to see if they can actually force this one even further. Untara is low. Smeb trying to get BDD, and he lives yet again with a smidgen of health. Prey comes in, shuts the Jhin down with a flash auto attack. And he can't find the ricochet, though, onto the very low Untara and BDD. So they come out with something, but they also have 0 turrets remaining.
And they get a reprieve, but of course the smallest of reprieves. The game hasn't ended, but still everything going the way of CJ Entus. BDD gets so much healing from each of these twin fangs. You can see 73 health on a 0.75 second base cooldown is pretty damn insane, as Elder Drake will spawn in 6 minutes from now. Cloud Drake obviously won't be a relevant statistic outside of, I guess, Hecarim once again, his devastating charge. Glass half full. Until the last, Monty.
No, it's just bad. Cloud Drake is bad.
It is bad. I agree.
Don't try and justify it, Papa Smithy.
I'm trying to say what it gives, because it's like when you see a bad pick where you're like, well, it has CC, I guess. Even if it's bad, it still has its qualities.
Get out of this game, Cloud Drake. Not wanted here anymore. Well, the way CJ can just rush the Nexus right now, pretty much all hope is lost. For the ROX Tigers, they will have to mount a truly epic defense, and there is Zuntara. Just TPing in, sees an opportunity to get a couple of super minion waves advanced towards this Nexus.
It's going to be a free Baron. I'm going to pose a question to you, Monte Cristo. What is the problem with the ROX Tigers? And there's clearly quite a few. What's the biggest problem that you see in a game like, just in this game? Let's not look at the whole season, but what's gone wrong for ROX? Because the draft at least has some merits, not awful, like some of their Swain Vladimir hijinks. What's the biggest problem?
Overcommitment and overextension. So they're getting cut off. They're not respecting possible global abilities in this game in order to make sure that they can actually press objectives as aggressively as they want to.
And the biggest offender seems to be Gorilla. I mean, that's the crazy thing, is this guy has been outstanding for years. But something about the range supports really seem to be hurting him. Now he gets Kramer.
Yeah, is that going to be enough, though? Again, there's a standing knight on a Kramer, and Prey nearly melted by the Hecarim.
Free damage.
Live. And here we go. Lance Spike will be popped. Kuro already almost dead. Pool will save him right now, but it's not going to be long. Haru actually falls to Prey there on his attempt to engage, but that's a quick double kill for the likes of BDD. Root onto Peanut. That's a dead Kindred. Triple kill for BDD, and that will be it for game one. CJ comes out swinging and takes a game off the ROX Tigers.
And BDD ends it 12-0-7. Kramer on the Jhin, 5-1-12. The carries went off this game, and so did the horse. Haru had his first impressive performance in a CJ jersey, and he made the Hecarim pick work. That was the surprising thing. He brought out something that we have not seen in Champions in a very long time, specifically in the jungle, and it does so much work. There was nothing that ROX Tigers can do. They finally killed him in that last fight, but the amount of time and the damage he was putting out on an economy, on a jungle build, is crazy.
I also just like, there's so much to like about CJ that game, besides the Cassiopeia split push, but the aggressive way they played the Shen and the Hecarim together to get into the back lines, to get the damage done, to get the dives in between the turrets and turn those team fights, they looked much better in terms of their team fighting and coordination than they have previously.
Once again, another monster performance by Mad Life in terms of kill participation, 20 out of 24, but everyone is really high, and this is when CJ is winning. Often they have high kill participation across the board. They play as a team, they win as a team. Surprising that BDD split pushed a lot of it, but they got value out of it apart from that one miscue by Haru in particular. You can see the damage numbers on your screen. Predictably, Cassiopeia was deleting people towards the end.
I don't know. BDD did actually lose 2 team fights for them by split pushing and a Baron, so I'm not...
2 turrets for 2 team fights. That's 50-50, right?
Just not impressed with that. Everything else, though, from CJ was really on point, and that new Cassiopeia doing work, so there's Kuro.
Will we be seeing him in game 2?
That's going to be the question. So we are going to head to a short break, guys, and then come back with the second match of this series and see if CJ Entus could perhaps pull off a big 2-0 upset and help dig themselves out of the hole that they've been in at the start of this season. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes for game number 2.